recently dead spouses. And Lori Vallow has 2 children who went missing, and their remains were found in her new husband's yard. So if you go back in time, before Chad was ever arrested or charged with anything, it was just Lori Vallow Daybell who got arrested down in Hawaii, extradited back to Idaho, and made an appearance in court. And at that time, it seemed like her attorney was representing her and her husband, Chad Daybell. Well, recently, June 30th, the issue came up again in court. I want you to take a listen to the way it played out.
Mr. Means, have you ever represented any of the alleged co-conspirators that are set forth in the criminal complaint?
No, Your Honor, other than Mr. Daybell.
Okay. All right. With that,
Your Honor, I need to interject. At a bail reduction here in Madison County, Mr. Means did represent to the court that he was also representing Mr. Vallow. Or Mr. Daybell. He didn't represent, there was no criminal matter against him at that time, but I do think that's appropriate to know.
all right. It sounds like there's a disagreement there. What I'm going to ask the parties to do, ultimately, there's a question of whether or not a conflict exists, and I'm going to ask each of the parties to submit what their request is regarding that issue so that the court can make a decision as soon as is possible and as soon as is necessary based upon that issue.
All right. That could be a little bit of a problem, right? And you know the way it goes, right? If you have 2 defendants in the same case, can't be represented by the same person, right? Because at some point, this person may be going after this person, or this defendant may point the finger at this defendant. So there's that conflict. So Mark Means is the attorney for Lori Vallow, and he's represented her in court, has never represented Chad Daybell in court. But when he was in court, I saw that. He mentioned that he had represented Chad Daybell, but there were no criminal charges at the time against Chad Daybell. And I remember talking about it back then. Well, now there are criminal charges against Chad Daybell, and now there's an issue. We have a problem here. The problem is we're not going to hear anything about it, and that's because of a big ruling by the judge on the issue of a potential conflict of interest. Let's put it up on the screen because we've got it for you, folks. This is from the judge. The judge says the court finds that the defendants, that would be Lori Vallow Daybell, I guess, and maybe Chad Daybell, privacy interests and right to a fair trial outweigh the public interest of disclosure in the matter of whether an attorney conflict of interest exists. It is hereby ordered that all hearings, recordings of hearings, court minutes and documents, including motions, memorandums, briefs, and affidavits, shall be sealed regarding the issue of whether counsel is conflicted. This order includes the parties' stipulation. So we've got a potential conflict, which I guess is being litigated and investigated, but the public's not going to hear anything about it. Is it a big deal? Is it not a big deal? Let's bring in our think tank tonight to go through this, because the first time we talked about this issue months ago, folks thought it was a little bit of an issue. Joining us tonight, Jennifer Brandt, family law attorney, Joseph Lowe, trial attorney with us, as well as Sarah Flack, criminal defense attorney and former prosecutor. Great to have all of you with us tonight. All right, Joseph Lowe, I will start with you because we have 2 ladies, so we'll go man first tonight, just to balance things a little bit, okay? Is this going to be a problem for Mark Means? Because it's not like he's going to learn anything about Chad Daybell if he did represent him before criminal charges. He's not going to know anything that his client, Lori Vallow, doesn't know about her husband, right?
Well, unfortunately, I have to say this, and I hate this answer, but it depends. Generally speaking, you cannot represent 2 defendants at the same time because one may need to testify against the other to best serve them. If that happens, you can see that's a pretty big problem. In this case, though, it's slightly different because we don't know, or we don't have any information that suggests that the lawyer learned it from representing both of them and may need to call upon some of that evidence in order to defend his client, which means he could then be hurting the other defendant And in that case, he's going to get in a lot of trouble for doing that. So because these things can get so messy and so complicated, that's why they generally have the rule that says you cannot represent both unless they sign a waiver.
Either, not both, because I know that would be a conflict for you. You would not do that. But if you represented one or the other, would you make an appointment to visit them on the 23rd to kind of feel them out, with the world not ending? If that happens, I mean, if the world ends, you're not going to go visit them, right? But would you go, seriously, would you go to see your client to see how they're holding up mentally with the end of the world not coming?
Yes, Vinny, there is, as you well know, no substitute for preparation. And understanding where your client is at, how they're feeling, and what they're prepared to do, is critical to being able to mount a very good defense. And it's an ethical responsibility. So the answer is yes.